In this video, I'm going to talk about the Solidworks Feature Manager. We'll talk about mainly the Parts Feature Manager here, and the Assembly Manager we'll talk about in a separate video. Feature Manager is, of course, this list of features that you've created to make a part on the left side of the screen. There are a lot of things that you can do with this, and there are different types of tools that go along with it. But the first thing that I want to go through are the settings for the Feature Manager. I'm getting there through the Tools icon, and I'll come down and select Feature Manager from the list. Scroll selected item into view. Let's take a look and see what this does. If I select on a piece of geometry on the screen, SolidWorks is going to scroll that entity into the view and show it selected in the Feature Manager. So that's easy enough. If you turn this off, you won't be able to do that automatically, but you can right-click and use the Go To Feature in Tree option. Name Feature on Creation will simply put you into name edit mode as soon as you create a feature. So if you want something that forces you and your coworkers to rename features, that would be a good thing. Arrow key navigation. This is an interesting one. I've got it turned on right now. If I roll back the tree and then I move it once with the cursor, now I can move it with the arrow keys. So this allows me to move both up and down with the rollback bar. So that's a great tool. That's something you might want to have turned on. Dynamic highlight. This is one that used to get us in trouble, but I think they've fixed this. If you run your cursor over features in the Feature Manager, they highlight in the SolidWorks window. Used to be this would cause graphics problems and you'd crash your SolidWorks doing this. Auto-resolve lightweight components upon expansion in the Feature Manager tree. This is an assembly function, but it just means that if you expand a component in an assembly and that component is lightweight, then SolidWorks will automatically fully load the part. Again, that's an assembly thing, really kind of not in the scope of what we're talking about here. Use transparent flyout Feature Manager in parts and assemblies. This is a really important one. If you're editing a feature and the Feature Manager gets replaced by the Property Manager, then you get a flyout here, and if you have to select something from the Feature Manager, you can still do that. But it's transparent, so if you have to use that part of the graphics area for visualization, you can still see through it. So it's a good compromise the way they've set this up. The next one that's grayed out is Enable Feature Manager Tree Filter. In order to turn this off, you would have to exit out of all of your documents in SolidWorks. What this does, and let me just roll to the end, is this allows me to find any sort of name that I'm looking for in the Feature Manager. So for example, if I want to find a tube, then this has identified all of the features that have the word tube in them. The filter will work in parts and assemblies, and it's fantastic in parts, but I think it's even better in assemblies. The next one is Enable Preview of Hidden Components, and again, that's another assembly setting, but the name should be pretty self-explanatory on that one. Edit name with a slow double click. There are several ways to get into editing the name of a feature. One we've already seen is to have the name feature on creation setting turned on. Another one is to select a feature, press F2 on the keyboard, and that puts you into name edit mode. You can also right click and rename tree item, or you can do this slow double click. So it's like you click on it twice, but not fast enough to be a double click. Show translated feature names in FeatureManager tree. This is particularly important, I think, if you have a supplier who uses a different language. You have to work with those parts. Anything that has the standard SolidWorks name for that feature will get translated into your selected language. Now, if it's a name that's been renamed to something custom, then SolidWorks isn't going to translate that. Override document level tree display. This setting will use the system settings instead of the document settings to display the names and descriptions for components in the tree. Again, this is going to be another assembly level option, but we'll give you a quick preview of that here. Settings for the comments in the Feature Manager include automatically add timestamp to comments so you know who made the comment when, and show comments in Property Manager. So if we had a comment on one of these features, we could add the comment, paint it black. The comments are shown here in a folder and a special drop down for each new comment. If I add another comment, make it molybdenum, it adds another entry to this new folder at the top. That can be collapsed. And there's a special icon that's shown here, this little gray square, that shows that these features have comments on them. You can also get these comments to show up in the tooltip for these particular features. So there we've got paint it black and make it molybdenum. By the way, the filter will also help you find words in comments. So if I look for the word black, it finds it in this comment. Very useful tool. The items in the lower section will help you show or hide the different types of folders that you want to see when you're working with parts and assemblies. Sometimes, even on a large monitor, the Feature Manager can get crowded, especially in big assemblies. And there may be certain types of things that you don't use all the time. For example, you may not use the design binder or blocks. So you can set those to either automatic, hide, or show. Everybody uses SolidWorks differently, and some people may use surfaces constantly. Some people may only use solid bodies in the features. People may not have tables or favorites or selection sets, and so you may be able to skip some of those folders taking up space in your Feature Manager. Thanks for watching part 1 of the Feature Manager. Please come back for part 2.